So last year going into the season, rankers, we didn't have Southeast Polk at the top, something you guys aren't used to. Rankings don't matter, but it kind of gives you a gauge for how the season's going to go statewide. You don't know what those other rooms are like, but to start the season like that, do you think it helped you guys get to that first dual meet, get things kind of ramped up to prove people wrong?
I think so. I mean, we've opened up with Johnston for the last how many of your years it's been, and we always it ends up to be a tussle and a fight that first meet, and you know, they were a great team last year, and we faced them in the semis of the state duels, and yeah, that absolutely helps when you don't have a big target on your back. It makes it a lot easier to just prove people wrong or try to prove people wrong, and sometimes that's, you know, they say it's a lot harder to get to the top than it is to stay there, and I definitely agree with that.
You know, last year you guys had your stars, but who were some of the guys that it takes a full team? Who were a couple of the guys last year that were really those unsung heroes that really made that team, made that state championship last year?
Saul Jones, back of our shirt, just go again, or let's go again, from the state championship. That was kind of our capping point of last season. Put it on our championship shirts. That's what he said out there on the mat. It cost us a team point because he said, let's go again. But that was kind of his attitude. He didn't want to stop wrestling. He didn't want to be done with his high school career. And he was a kid that spent, 3 years on JV and steps in and is a state place winner for us, wrestles in the semis of the state tournament. And Cameron Patovich was another one that, he was a qualifier the year before, but for him to get fourth, those two stepping up and being state place winners, that's what those points were the difference in our title. And everybody we had go, Gavin Babcock's back again this year, but he 2 years on JV, hits the varsity lineup as a junior, and now he's set himself up to have a great senior season. And that kind of leads into this year. I think we're looking at some of those kids like Babcock and a Cody Wunderlich, who maybe didn't have the greatest season a year ago, but to make our lineup, he had to go down past Patovich and cut to 70, and now he's going to be a big, healthy 95-pounder, and he looks great, had a good football season, and is ready to roll. And so that's really our key from year to year is getting improvement out of our guys that haven't been on the varsity mat before. And so, yeah, we've got some unknowns again this year, and we'll see how they progress, but that makes it exciting.
I talked to you before the finals last year. You guys wrapped up the state championships, 3A state championship last year before the finals, and it was really emotional at that point in time. But going into that night, I mean, what was the feeling like as far as focusing on the kids that you had in the finals and knowing that the team came through in the end and got the job done?
That was an awesome feeling. That point in time when you interviewed me, I mean, it was emotional. I was. I love our kids, and that was just a great point in time. You would have talked to me after the finals, and I would have been emotional again, but for different reasons. We just did not finish the way that we wanted to, and those guys were hurting, and you hurt for them. And so, when you caught me at that point in time, it was, tears of joy and elation and all the hard work that those guys had put in. Paid dividends, and then, there's always rough seas out there, and you got to navigate those, and we ran into those on Saturday night, and that kind of put us into a position for our spring and summer wrestling, and took it from there.
How has practice been going the spring and summer, using what you guys learned at the state finals, those guys not getting the titles that they wanted? How did you prepare in the spring and the summer? Obviously, practice is going now, but what did you guys do in the off season?
Well, I think the big difference for us is that our kids wrestled this off season. A year ago, we only had 6 kids in Fargo, and I think of those 6, 3 of them were seniors and leaving us. And now this year, we only had 1 senior that went to Fargo. I think we had 8 or 9 kids that went, and maybe 10 that qualified, 10 or 11. So we took a step back to where we were from, the days of Clark, Meyer, and Miklas, and those guys. We've always had a pretty good group at Fargo training camp and in the national tournament, and the bigger our group is, generally the better years we have. And so there's a big correlation for us between our spring and summer and our folk style season. And, I feel really good about this year coming into it because we got back on track again and had more kids wrestling, so.
You guys got 90 kids here and there, and there's not an official total number because obviously they come down, but 90 kids in a room like this makes it for a slippery practice, but you have the ability to choose from 90 kids, or that 90 kids have an opportunity to make a small lineup. What have the battles been like in the room, knowing that's coming around the corner here for you guys?
Yeah, it's coming up quick, and we've got, I don't know of those 90. I think that our goal is to have depth, and Jeff Evans, my longtime assistant, and one of my best friends, his goal is to be the deepest team in the country in any sport. That's his goal as our top JV coach, and so we've got some work to do on those lines. We've got, out of those 90 or whatever we've got, there's probably 20 kids that are brand new to the sport of wrestling, and then we've got another 24 or 25 freshmen, and so I think the big key was we finished last year with 79. We had 68 kids of that 79 eligible to return or somewhere in that number, and we kept 60 of them out for the sport. So our retention is high, and then you add in a freshman class of 20 to 25, and then you get kids that want to be part of your program, and then you end up with numbers like that. So can we bring those new guys along, get those freshmen hooked to come back? It's not the easiest sport, and they've done some things this week on the track that, Jessamine Smith is ruthless, and they might say heartless, and everything else. Has no soul, but those kids really put it out there this week, and this morning, Singlet Saturday, for them to show up. We had, I don't know what our total number was this morning, but 2 groups wrestling live and very few circles left open. So I think we were pretty close to probably 80, 85 this morning, Saturday morning. A couple kids, let you know they can't make it, but so far I like what I see.
At the end of practice, you brought up know the history of what you're getting into, being a part of wearing the black and gold here at Southeast Polk. How important is that, do you think, to your guys' success? Is the history and keeping kids around? People want to be a part of the program, or is it just how do you teach the kids to believe in the history and keep them out for the sport where sometimes they maybe quit? They quit, but it's the history that keeps them around.
Yeah, I think success is part of that. You have to have a little bit of success before that will happen. But I remember, like, the very first year I was here, I gave away T-shirts to the first person in school. They came on the loudspeaker and said, if you can name all 3 Southeast Polk State Wrestling champions, you get a free T-shirt to Coach Christenson. Get it to Coach Christenson. First one gets that T-shirt. And so it's something that, I've known all along. You have to find whatever positives that you have. I think we had 3 at that point in time in 2002 when I came here. And then the other part of it is just you got to teach delayed gratification. It's delayed. You're not going to get what you want immediately in this sport. And, if you start late, it's difficult, but it can be done. And I think the history of our program shows that, we've had a kid that came out as a junior that ended up being a state qualifier as a senior. We had a kid that, come out as a freshman and be a state place winner. And there's more examples of that than just those 2. But it starts with that, and then your kids have to understand it, because you look at, I'll take basketball, for example, and if you coach wrestling in a basketball school, it doesn't matter what happens on the basketball court that season. The next group of kids coming up think that they're going to change and make a difference. And I think that's probably everywhere in the state of Iowa. Nobody looks at past to determine where their future is going to be. Everybody believes that they're going to get it done. But when you can show a kid, all right, this is what's happened, this has been done before, you can do it too. I think that we get a little bit of mileage out of that with our kids. And so it's a big thing in our handbook. It shows our results through the years. Our state place winners, are up on the boards in the room, and our state championship teams. And I think kids want to be a part of that, whether it be they want the state title T-shirt or they want to say that they wrestled at Southeast Polk or whatever it might be. But just doing the little things that every kid that's in our program and every cheerleader is on our trophy. They're engraved. Their name is on our championship trophy. And so it's not, we can't win anything with our best 14. That's not going to be your program. Your program is everybody from the freshman that's never wrestled before to your managers and through your coaching staff and administration and school, and you make it a total program, and people want to be a part of that.
And most schools going into the season, that they kind of have a good feel of who the guy's going to be at each weight class. A pretty good feeling. But here with 90 kids, there's a lot of people vying for those spots. Looking at your lineup right here, going from 6 up, are there some kids' names that you feel like are kind of rising to the top? Will you guys have wrestle-offs, or is it chosen? Okay.
No, we have wrestle-offs, and so the Saturday after Thanksgiving, so next Saturday, week from today, we'll have kind of a mini tournament. We'll get down to the top 4 guys in each weight class, and then they'll wrestle a semi and a final and a third place match to kind of determine pecking order on Saturday. And then we'll kind of work through this next week to get that pared down to 4. To name names, I can say we've got a kid, Devin Harmison, who weighed 90 pounds last year, that is going to step in and wrestle at 106, and we've got Ryan Strickland, who's making his way back down there, and so we're going to have a battle between those two for sure. 13 right now looks like our 6-pound from last year, Mark Ames, is probably going to be there. We're not sure about Cam Barta. He's probably going to end up at 20. Cam was a AAU runner-up last year as an 8th grader. He wrestled Happel in the finals, and so he's got some pretty promising stuff, and then probably looking at Perrin at 20 and Brown at 26. So a couple, this is kind of where we start the teeth of our lineup of returning place winners, and so Perrin at 20, Brown at 26, probably looking at either Lent or DeVos at 32 or 38, depending. Right now we don't have it figured out yet. We're probably going to see what's going to happen, where we're going to start the season out at as far as weights. And so you got 2 great quality guys right there, and 45 looks like Zach Barnes is going to hold that spot down, and then 52. Got an unknown, Sawyer Shaw, who's been injured the last 2 years and hasn't been able to compete, but it's Keegan's brother, Jessman's nephew, and so he's got the bloodline, and he's been a state cadet Greco champ and wrestled at Fargo this last summer, Northern Plains, place winner, top 3, and so feeling pretty good about that. Thaddeus Breitspecker probably has the edge at 60 right now. Had a real good spring and summer, and was on the cadet dual team, and won quite a few matches in Fargo, and so he's an unknown as well. And 70, Gavin Babcock, coming back, state qualifier a year ago. 82 is kind of wide open right now. Got a couple seniors there, Nathan Robillard and Jared Elder, if he can get down there, and then my son's a freshman, AAU runner-up last year, and so he'll have his nose in there. 95 will be Wunderlich, and most likely. 220, we're kind of Grant Dischinger or Josiah Rowland, both guys been hanging out on JV, and Dish is a senior, and Joe's a sophomore, so that'll be interesting. And then Levi Brand, if you watch the sprints there at the end, that first group challenged Barnes, as a heavyweight, and so he fits right into the line of heavyweights that we've kind of had that didn't spend a whole lot of time in the varsity lineup. He's a senior now, had a great football season, and he's a great athlete, and so he's going to help us at heavyweight for sure. So, that's, coach's brain thinking through it, and there could be some surprises. There always is. We don't always have what we think is going to happen, doesn't always happen, and in those wrestle-offs, but we've got some guys right there behind him that are Mason Morgan in the 160s and 170s, and Luke Board, and just a lot of names of guys that have spent time with Coach Evans that are ready to move up. So
This will be, you've always been probably a part of your son's career, but this will be the first time that he's really in your room and you get to see him every single day and pushing him. What's that going to be like for you? Have you thought about how you handle your him being in the room? Do you push him any more than any other kid?
Well, he's probably going to have it harder on him than anybody else, but I try not to pay any attention to him, basically, because it's not fair to the other 80, 85 or 90 or whatever we have in here. So, today as an example, I didn't watch him wrestle a whole lot. I talked to him at the end of practice, asked him how it went, but I'm going to pass him off to Jessman and Jeff Evans, and you guys take him, and because it's a different dynamic, and I'm not going to show favoritism towards my kid, and he doesn't deserve that yet. He's got to earn his spot, and obviously once we get going into the season, those 14 varsity guys are my top priority at that time, and until he is in that position, then everybody else is getting my attention. So
Let's look towards the start of the season. A tradition at Southeast Polk all the time is you guys have these goofy haircuts. They're all different shapes or sizes, colors, and I guess where did this whole thing start from? Is it the kids, coaches? How did it come up?
I don't know. I think it's kind of Coach Smith. Kids kind of started it by having too long a hair, maybe during football season or whatever it might have been, and so 2011-ish, I think, is when, or maybe even 10, the haircut started going. Coach Smith he's got his own set of clippers and brings them in, but so it started kind of with the mullet, and so Briar Dittmer, Alex Meyer, Clark was always a little bit too pretty for a mullet. Willie Miklas with a mohawk. So it kind of started with that group of guys, and then, I don't know if Nate Lentz' haircut from his freshman year will be outdone. That reverse mohawk, so to speak, or the grandpa cut. You expect those things to happen. We go wrestle our first couple competitions, and then a lot of the kids get their hair fixed. Well, Lent wore his from the beginning of the season right through the state tournament. Got it cut that way again, I think, or as it grew out, he looked goofy all the way through the year, and he embraced that too. So I don't know what to say.
Last year, you guys, huge duel, went up to Fort Dodge, took care of business. You guys wrestled great. Kids were prepared for some big-time matchups. This year, what is that duel for you? What's one that's circled on the calendar for you guys?
Well, I wish we could wrestle Fort Dodge again this year, but they're not on our schedule. And that's not our fault. It's not Fort Dodge's fault. It's just the way the conference goes. We get a rotation of dual meets, so we don't open with Johnston this year. But you look at one. Obviously, the Valley Duel is going to be a big one. I think that they're probably the favorites, and at least from last year's state tournament points, maybe. I don't know what it is. I don't really look at that stuff a whole lot when you have 90 kids. You're worried about 90 kids. I'm not really worried about what everybody else has got going on or what they're doing. So, but I'd say that one, December, 22nd, I think.
I believe it's a Tuesday.
Yeah, it's Tuesday after our Red Owens tournament here. So that's on there, and that's probably one that everybody's excited about. So,
what other tournaments? You guys are known for going around the country and having some big-time tournaments, Cheesehead, etc. What big tournaments do you guys plan on going to this year?
Well, the first weekend out, we go to Gardner Edgerton, and it's pretty decent sized school in Kansas City, Kansas, and we'll see Broken Arrow, Oklahoma, who's been in the national rankings quite a bit. You know, they've had some really great wrestlers. They've got a great coaching staff, and Scott Catholic from Nebraska, who's had 14, 15, 16 state titles in a row in Nebraska, and Olathe North, and has had some pretty good teams in the national rankings, and we see the best from that area. Platte County, Missouri, obviously, can't leave them out because they're a well-coached team and really good team as well. And so we start off there, and so our kids, they're in the fire right away, and so that's a big one. And then the Cheesehead obviously is a super tough tournament, and Ed Winger. And then we CIML. Those are our real big ones, and so our kids are tested. They're battle tested, and you know, you look at all of our place winners in years past. They've had multiple losses. You know, we don't have very many guys that will come through a season unblemished or unbeaten, or even with a couple losses. But they know how to battle, and that's probably the most important thing for us come state tournament time.
Big topic every year is the state dual championships. Day before the individual. Last year didn't go your guys' way. Is it something that you'd like to see changed, or do you like the way it is? Every program seems to be different the way they handle it. What are your thoughts on how the state dual championship should be handled?
Well, if you look at history, I think you can figure it out. The first year we had it the day before, we didn't wrestle any kids that qualified for the state tournament in the duels, and so I think we had Keegan Shaw. What did we have? Did we have 13 qualifiers that year? No, we had 11 or 12 maybe. So we had like 2 varsity guys in the lineup because one got hurt at districts. And Iowa High School Athletic Association wasn't very happy with us. But what people don't realize is that we wrestled our JV guys in the regional duel to qualify. I think we had 2 or 3 varsity kids wrestle that meet. We got up, and then we threw in those kids, and so we sat that year. That was Clark, Meyer, Miklas, and that was the best decision for our kids in our program at the time. And so looking back on it, Bettendorf wins the dual meet title. We've beaten them. At that point in time, the Mendenhall duels that was a tough dual tournament. We had Owatonna coming down when Coach Davis was still up there at that point in time, and then Bettendorf was there, and we clipped them at that duel, and then didn't give ourselves an opportunity, and got 8th place that day with that JV team, and it kind of, I don't know if it was a little bit of weight on those guys. We had a great state tournament as far as 3 champs. I think Bettendorf had 1, and so they won both. Okay, and so then we go into 2013, and our kids they're hungry. They want to win both. So then we wrestle the duels, and we win the traditional. And the next year, Bettendorf wins the duels. They win the traditional. And so last year, to me, is now I might be scratching my head a little bit, because in the past, since it started, whoever won in 3A, whoever won the duels won the traditional. And so then last year, we get second at the duels, but end up winning the traditional. So do I like when they're at? This is a long answer to your question.
No, you're good.
But no, I don't like where they're at. I want to do them at a different time, and I don't care when it is, but the day to wrestle that is not the day before the state tournament.
Well, it's tough. It's tough got to be not just to have the competition, but making weight. Some of these guys, if they're in the finals, they're making weight 4 days, plus the regional duel that they have to get the week before. It's tough on the body, and I'm with you. I think just for health-wise, the risk of getting hurt, weight cutting, I do feel like there's an opportunity for it to get moved. Will it ever get moved? A thought process is, what if somebody held, kind of like a Battle of Waterloo, what if they moved the Battle of Waterloo to closer into January, and we try to kind of treat that as our state dual championship, not sanctioned by the by the state. But do you think that's an opportunity for someone to come in and put something like that together? Do you think the coaches would, a percentage of them would move to something like that?
I could see something like that happening. I don't think we want to take it out of the Iowa High School Athletic Association's hands. I think we should work together with them to figure out a great solution for everybody that everybody can live with. I don't want to lose the state duels. That's really important to our program. Our banners aren't up right now for the first 2 years, but Southeast Polk, with the great tradition that we have, we didn't qualify for the state duels until 2004. So that would have been my third year here. So I think it's something that we have to continue to do. I don't want to see the state duels go away. I just would like to see it at a different time.
Give it its own time.
Yep, whether that be the day after the state tournament or whether that's moved up into the season. Because here's the thing, you mentioned the making weight and the injury thing. And that can happen anytime. I mean, we could walk out of here and at that stoplight out there on 75th Street and University, and a semi could run through it, and we'd be in trouble. But the other thing is it's you're making weight. Not everybody else that's wrestling the next day is making weight. And I know that everybody else gets the extra pound that first day. And so to me, that's not fair to the kids that are wrestling in the state duels. Because one, they get wear and tear on their body. That's why we don't wrestle, tournaments don't last 4 days, and I know it's not a lot of matches, but to get up to compete every match, I mean, that takes a little bit out of you each time you have to get up and step out there. Is that why we wrestle at Fargo and, to wrestle all those matches in the summer and wrestle all those times? Absolutely. But when you look at qualifier from Southeast Polk and a qualifier from a school that doesn't make the state duels, that's a different day before, a different day of preparation. So that's my biggest complaint with it.
So going, wrapping up to the season here, what's the message to you guys? Everyone's got a message on the back of their shirt, front of their shirt, a theme, I guess. What's your guys' theme for 2016, 2017, if you had to put it into words?
That's earn the star. It's on the back of our shirt right now. It's Ram life, Ram wrestler. Live the lifestyle, live a championship lifestyle. We've got Grandview as a great example of championship lifestyle right down the road here. And so that's kind of what the front of that shirt means. And then on the back, each star on our shirts is a state title, and we've got to earn it. And that's what we want our kids to do, is understand that even though we have tradition and history, that it doesn't just happen automatically. You got to earn it.